He looked me dead in the eyes, right in front of our 6-year-old daughter, and told me I was nothing. Not during a fight, not behind closed doors. At the dinner table, with the pasta still warm and her little hands folded in her lap. And she heard every single word. That moment didn't break me, it built me. Stay with me, because what I did next, nobody told me to do. Nobody coached me. Nobody saved me. I figured it out alone, one quiet decision at a time. And by the end of this, I think you'll understand why the most dangerous thing anyone can do is underestimate a woman who has finally decided she is done being small. I wasn't always the woman sitting on a bathroom floor at midnight, questioning everything. Before all of it, wasn't before the silence and the shrinking, I was someone with a life that felt genuinely mine. I studied interior design and I was good at it. There's something about walking into an empty room and seeing what it could become. The light, the space, the way one right piece can make somewhere feel like home. I had clients by 24, small ones but mine. I had a portfolio I was proud of, friends who made me laugh until my stomach hurt, and a sense of myself that felt solid. Then I met him. Charming, confident, the kind of man who walked into a room like he already owned it. He told me I was the most interesting woman he'd ever met. He showed up for things. The first year felt like something I never wanted to end. We got married and everyone said we were perfect together. For a little while, I believed them. The comments didn't start loud. That's what nobody tells you. It doesn't begin with shouting. It begins with a raised eyebrow when you share an idea. A half smile that says, "That's cute," when you were hoping for something more. A casual remark at dinner that makes your voice go quiet without you fully understanding why. He started calling my work your little projects. Not cruelly. In that soft, patronizing tone that somehow felt worse than cruelty. He questioned my parenting instincts, always framed as concern, always delivered like he was the reasonable one. He took over the finances, said it made more sense, said it was efficient. I told myself that was fair. I told myself a lot of things. I stopped calling my friends, not because he forbade it. He never forbade anything outright. But every time I made plans, there was a comment, a sigh, a quiet disappointment that filled the room without a sound. It was easier to cancel. Eventually, they stopped calling too. That's how isolation works. It doesn't lock the door. It just makes leaving feel like more effort than it's worth. I stopped looking in mirrors for a while. The woman looking back had gotten so careful, so pruned down that I barely recognized her. I counted my blessings like they were proof I had no right to feel what I was feeling. The biggest lie I ever told myself was, he loves me, he's just struggling. I held on to that lie like a life raft for years. My daughter had spent the whole afternoon drawing. She came running into the kitchen before dinner, waving a piece of paper with both hands, our family in stick figures, enormous heads, wild hair, huge smiles. She had drawn me taller than everyone else. She had given me a crown. I laughed and hugged her and felt that specific warmth that only a child's drawing can give you. We sat down for dinner and I held up the picture and said something like, "Look at this." She gave me a crown. "I think she has better taste than both of us." He glanced at it. Then he looked at me. And with our daughter sitting right there, legs dangling off the chair, eyes wide and trusting, he said I was embarrassing, that I was the kind of woman who got excited over childish things because I had never actually accomplished anything worth getting excited about. He said our daughter would grow up thinking mediocrity was something to celebrate if I kept modeling it for her. He said it in that calm, almost bored voice, like he wasn't angry, just stating facts. Then he laughed, alone. The room went so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming from the other side of the house. I didn't say anything, and then I looked at my daughter. She wasn't looking at him, she was looking at me. Her face was still and careful and heartbreakingly focused, and her eyes were asking me something without words. She wasn't afraid of him, she was afraid for me. A 6-year-old was looking at her mother with something that looked exactly like worry, and the first edges of understanding that something in this house was not right. That look cracked something open inside me that had been sealed shut for years. I picked up my fork. I finished dinner. I said nothing, but I knew, even sitting at that table, that things would never be the same. After I put her to bed, I went to the bathroom, closed the door, and sat down on the cold tile floor. I didn't cry. I was past crying, I just thought. I thought about who I was at 24 with a portfolio I was proud of, and a laugh that came easily. I thought about the last time someone asked for my opinion and actually waited for the answer. And then I thought about my daughter's face at that table. And I asked myself the question that changed everything. What am I teaching her right now? Not with words, with my life, with the way I sat there and said nothing. I was teaching her every single day that this was what a woman looked like. And that thought hit me harder than anything he had ever said to me. I sat on that floor for a long time. When I stood up and looked in the mirror, something was different. I wasn't suddenly fearless, but a decision had been made somewhere below the level of words, and from that night forward, I moved differently, quietly, but differently. I didn't pack a bag the next morning. Real life doesn't move that fast once the turning point happens. What I did was slower and in many ways harder. I found my old design portfolio on a hard drive buried in a box at the back of our closet. I sat at the kitchen table going through years of work I had completely abandoned, and it was good. Genuinely good. I had let someone else's voice replace my own memory of what I was capable of. I sent one email to a woman I used to work alongside, someone who had her own small firm now, someone I hadn't spoken to in 4 years. I kept it short. She replied within 2 hours and said she'd been hoping I'd come back. That alone almost undid me at the kitchen table. I opened a bank account. Just mine. Small amounts set aside quietly over several weeks. Nothing dramatic. Nothing noticeable. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And there is a specific kind of power in having something entirely yours when someone has spent years making you feel like you belong to them. I found a women's support group that met Thursday evenings at a community center nearby. The first night I walked in, I thought I'd made a mistake. But then a woman across the circle said, the hardest part wasn't leaving. It was admitting to myself that I needed to. And I burst into tears I hadn't known were waiting. I started therapy. My first session, I cried the entire 50 minutes. At the end, my therapist said, "Same time next week?" I said yes. That yes was one of the most important words I ever spoke. I started documenting things, dates, words, incidents, quietly, carefully, not for revenge, for protection. And slowly I started saying things out loud again, small opinions, a gentle pushback when something wasn't right. Just existing. Just taking up the space I was entitled to. Each small act felt like lifting a stone off my chest, and the pile of stones had been enormous. He felt the shift before I ever said a word about leaving. He came home one evening with flowers, soft and uncertain in a way I hadn't seen in years. He talked about a vacation we'd always said we'd take. He was charming again, exactly like the beginning, and the old version of me would have melted completely. But I had been in that Thursday night circle long enough to have a name for what this was. I accepted the flowers and felt nothing move inside me. When softness didn't work, he moved to guilt. He said I had changed, that I was cold and distant, that I was creating tension our daughter could feel. He delivered it in that calm, reasonable tone that used to make me doubt my own mind. I listened. I nodded, and I thought about my private bank account and my Thursday nights and the growing folder of documentation on my phone. Then came the line I had always feared most. He looked at me one night and said, "Who is going to want you?" Plain and simple, like a fact. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said quietly, "I want me," and I walked out of the room. I slept fine that night. I don't think he did. By then I was already gone. Not physically, not yet. But in every way that actually matters, I had already left. The body takes longer to follow than the spirit does, but it always catches up. I left on a Tuesday, sunny, slightly cool, the kind of morning where the light comes in at an angle and makes everything look cleaner than it is. He had left for work at his usual time. I had loaded the car slowly over 2 weeks, her drawings, my hard drive, documents, the things that had our names on them in ways that mattered. I drove her to school that morning like any other morning. I walked her to the gate, crouched down and hugged her and breathed her in. She looked at me with that careful look and said, "Mommy, are we going somewhere today?" Children always know. I said, "Yes, baby, somewhere really good." Back at the house, I did one final walk through every room. Then I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a note. Short, No anger, no long explanation. The last line said, "I'm choosing us now." I drove away, and the first song on the radio made me laugh. Completely ordinary, completely wrong for the moment, which made it exactly right. I sat at a red light laughing with tears running down my face and thought, there she is. There's the woman I was looking for. The months that followed were not easy, and I won't pretend otherwise. The legal process was slow, and he fought it the way people fight when control is slipping. But I had documentation. I had been preparing longer than he knew. My daughter adjusted better than I feared. She started drawing bigger, brighter pictures. More people, more color, more noise. A joy that had been quietly dampened in our old house came rushing back into her, and watching it return was the greatest gift I have ever received. My former colleague sent me 3 referral clients in the first month. Small projects, nothing dramatic. But I showed up for everyone with everything I had, and the work was good, and good work spreads when it's honest. Within a year, I had rebuilt something real. Not overnight, just steady, mine, and growing. He tried to come back twice. The first time with the full charm campaign, the second time, almost a year later, quieter and sadder. I felt something that second time, not love, not longing, but a sorrow for the years and for what it could have been. I let myself feel it, then I let it go. I'm not with anyone new. I say that without apology. There is a peace in a life that is entirely your own, after years of losing yourself in someone else's. My daughter and I have a small apartment with good light and her drawings all over the refrigerator. We laugh at dinner every night. Nobody makes the room go quiet. That is not a small thing. That is everything. The karma here isn't dramatic. He didn't lose everything in one single moment. What happened was quieter and I think more complete. He lost the ability to control the story. He lost the woman who absorbed every hard word, so he never had to hear the echo of them. Without me there, he was left with the full weight of who he actually is. That is its own consequence, the kind that lasts. If any part of this felt like a mirror to you, I want to say this directly. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining it. The fact that he has never hit you does not mean you are not being hurt. And the fact that leaving feels impossible right now does not mean it will always feel that way. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to teach your children what it looks like when a woman stands up. The woman you were before is not gone. She has just been waiting quietly for you to come back for her. If this story reached something in you today, share it with someone who might need it. Leave a comment and tell me what part stayed with you. And subscribe, because there are more stories like this one coming, and every single one of them is for you.